Hey there Facebook, it is Vanessa here again, your motivational speaker, trainer and head coach from Live, Love, Give, and today's message is all about responsibility, but it's really about, the fact that personal responsibility is your quickest path to empowerment. But I want you to make sure that you are definitely not confusing blame for responsibility. And this is a really big one that I really want so many of you guys out there to get, because I'm speaking to so many of you beautiful human beings out there who are in these scenarios where you're not happy. In particular, it's in relationship, I'm finding, where you guys are, finding that there's a problem and you're seeking the guidance, but you're coming from a place of blaming yourself for being in the situation that you're in. You're blaming yourself for having the feelings that you have. And this is what I wanted to make the peace with, because ultimately, when we confuse responsibility for blame, that when we're actually blaming ourselves rather than taking an empowered state of responsibility, we keep ourselves stuck and we don't move through our challenges. So that's what I'm going to be talking into today for you guys. But before I do, a really quick check-in. I was really hoping to be able to be outside for you guys today. The whales have been going off. There was 3 whales out there. There was a beautiful rainbow and the sun was shining, but now it's completely raining. So I'm indoors and it's not that great. But Lucy, awesome to have you, and Stephen and Joshi and Sergio and Mick, awesome to have you. And Nu, hopefully we can do a project one day. Love to, Nu. Let me know what you're up to. And Ted, awesome to have you. And Brian, yes, you finally caught me live again. So awesome to have you join me from Chicago. And Chris, awesome to have you. And Mick, I blamed myself for a very long time from being in an abusive relationship. Of course, it was a bit my fault. And that is what responsibility is about, particularly let's use the analogy or the circumstance of relationship, because ultimately that's where this comes up time and time again, where, the difference between blame and responsibility, blame is very disempowering. It assumes you have 100% responsibility, or it assumes I am 100% responsible, whereas taking personal responsibility in an empowered state is owning your part and actually being able to recognize that, another person has influence on the situation and nobody is to be blamed. I'm a really big believer that blame never serves. There is never any reason to blame if you want to be able to move forward from an empowered position. You have to own what goes on. So even for those people out there who are in abusive relationships, okay, don't blame yourself. Don't take 100% of the responsibility and the other person's responsibility and blame yourself, beat down on yourself because of the circumstance that you're in. But also, don't be a victim, don't push all that 100% responsibility onto the other person. Ultimately, when we come to relationship and we want to be in an empowered state to move forward, we're talking about 200%. We're talking about me taking 100% for where the relationship is at, and we're talking about the other person taking a whole 100% for where the relationship is at as well. We're both bringing our entirety to that circumstance so that we can move forward with empowerment, learn the lessons, no blame, and no victimization. So yes, definitely love that, Mick. Thank you for sharing. And Ellen, can't wait for your message to come. Awesome. I'm so grateful to have you, and I'm grateful that you're finding some value here, Ellen. Thank you. Alex, awesome to have you. And Mick, was not my fault, meant to say. Yeah, well, there's no fault. Exactly. I love that. No blame whatsoever. But take responsibility for everything that happens in your life, and take responsibility for learning the lessons that you are trying to be taught to you, particularly if you find yourself in the same circumstance over and over again. What's the lesson? How can you empower yourself to move forward and break free of those bad habits or patterns or abusive relationships? So awesome, Mick. Love having you here. And Shay, nice to have you. And Mully as well. So great to have you guys. And yeah, this is really everything that I talk into with you guys is always about empowerment. You know, that is everything. I want you to empower yourself with a new perspective, a new way of thinking, and always recognizing that there is a lesson to be learned in every circumstance that we are faced with in our lives, in every moment. And when you gain the mindset of finding the lesson, always being curious, what's the lesson here? But when it's a good situation, a bad situation, whatever it is that you're faced with, empowerment comes from taking 100% responsibility, personal responsibility for how you show up and how you move forward. So you've got to find the lessons. Your lessons are your pathway to freedom and empowerment. So I love that. And yes, and Melissa, awesome to have you. And from Japan, I'm going to try and pronounce your name, Soikairo. I hope that was right. I love having you here. Thanks for joining me. And Saddam, how can we go forward from depressive situation? Ultimate situation is not changing. Okay, so, all right. So what I'm trying to gather there from your question, Saddam, I'm going to assume that you mean that you're in a state of depression, and you're looking to move out of that because the situation that you're in is not changing. And what a great question. Thank you for bringing it to us today, because ultimately, you know, we tend to be in a depressed state when we feel out of control because we're trying to wait for our external circumstances to change for us to be happy, rather than to, like what we're talking into today, take 100% personal responsibility for your own actions, for the circumstance that's at hand, and also the feelings of depression. You know, I really do believe that much of our depression that is experienced is situational, meaning that it's not a chemical imbalance. You know, if it is, you know, go get that checked out for that. But what we're really talking about here is situational depression, when we no longer see a compelling future for ourselves, when we feel out of control, when we don't feel like life is going to get better. That is when we get depressed, and ultimately that comes from us waiting and expecting our external circumstances or the people who are involved to change for us to be happy, rather than take responsibility and empower ourselves forward. We have to take responsibility. We need to create that compelling future for ourselves to move forward towards without any reliance on external circumstances that are completely uncontrollable. We can influence others, but we cannot control them. So you putting your power in those external sources, you know, ultimately leads to depression. And that's what I'm sort of meaning when I'm talking to that for you there, Saddam. I hope that makes sense. What I would say is that you need to take the focus away from the external. You need to bring it into the internal. And when we are depressed, it's because we're missing that sense of a compelling future for ourselves. So you have to take responsibility for fully painting a compelling future for yourself. What do you want to experience in your life? What do you want to be able to see, do, feel, experience? How do you want to share that? What do you want to contribute? You know, what are your values that you want to align fully with? What matters most to you without the filters of anybody else or any other circumstance? You have to take 100% responsibility for where your life is at. That's your quickest path towards empowerment. And definitely there is no room to blame. No blaming of yourself for being in this depressed state, because you're gaining the knowledge that you have the power to change things. And that's, you've got to move forward from there with a state of empowerment and responsibility, not blame, and taking the blame and the expectation out of those external sources so that you can fully move forward with empowerment. Saddam, I really hope that was valuable to you. I hope I got your question right and that was and I answered it correctly for you. So let me know if I didn't. And Mick, because I wrote a bit my fault instead of not my fault. Bloody typos. Love it, Mick. Well, I got what you meant. Awesome. And Fiona, awesome to have you here. And Ryan, nice to have you. And Nadia and Gabrielle, awesome. And Uni, always look at the bright side and full half cup. Yes, definitely. You know, I love what Tony Robbins says, and I always say this, which is, you know, what's wrong is always available, but so is what's right. So why do we disempower ourselves by focusing on the things that are wrong or the things that we can't control and waste our time, energy, effort that we could be gearing towards a pathway to empowerment, to something that energizes us, builds us up, and you know, directs us with energy towards fulfillment? You know, we have that choice. So yes, I definitely agree with you there, Ayuni, but I also would say I'm not a believer in ever sugarcoating anything. You've got to face reality. You've got to move forward knowing the facts of the situation so that you can have empowerment, because ultimately you need to know where you are on the map before you can decide where you want to get to, so that you can actually close that gap. And when we sugarcoat stuff and we're not honest and we're just trying to be so positive and not, you know, kind of just avoid the negative or whatever we say, then we're not owning where we are, and therefore we can't ever get anywhere because we're confused how to navigate our way forward. So hope that was helpful, and definitely thank you for your comments there, Ayuni and Patricia. Awesome to have you. And Saddam, mentally maintain ourselves to see a good future. Yeah, so you've got to paint the picture for yourself. Like, I'm talking into creating something that really inspires you. You know, this is a time for you to sit down with your own thoughts and create something in your future that truly inspires you. And we've got so many limitations that we place on ourselves. This is a space where I would get you to dream big with zero limitations. You know, your limitless potential is what I'm talking about here. The more you can open your mind up to dreaming big without your own limitations and fears, the sooner you can create something that is truly compelling for yourself to move forward in the direction of, and that is what pulls you out of depressed states. Depression is when you are so focused on things that you can't control and you're creating poor meanings and focusing on the negative, that you're diminishing any possibility of a compelling future for yourself. So, you know, you get stuck in depression. And so I want you all moving forward in empowerment. I've been there myself before, many times in my past, where I've had that situational depression and I've been totally disempowered, but it was because I didn't know there was another way. I didn't fully understand what situational depression was. I have at times been, at a time in my life, I was diagnosed with depression. But at that time in my life, you know, I can look back and I can see exactly what was going on for me. You know, at that time, all at once in my life, I had a period of time where I lost my very best girlfriend. I lost my partner of nearly 5 years. I lost my home that I'd been living in for 4 years. I lost my job that I'd been in for many years. I had to go back to uni and I had to move back home with my family, which I'd been out of home since I was 18. And just completely, my whole life was just thrown up in the air. And all of that stuff happening at once, you know, that's when I fell into a state of depression. And it was on my own personal growth journey that I was able to I remember at the time I got diagnosed with depression because all this stuff happened at once and I didn't know what to do. I was confused. I was young. I had no idea. I was totally lost. I didn't know who I was. My identity was lost in these situations because I was so identified with the external. And ultimately, I remember them giving me some sort of depression pill, and I took it, and I didn't have any feelings. And I decided at that point, I don't want to live life in this mediocrity with I don't have any feelings. I'm just in this mundane state, because ultimately what I decided to do at that point was empower myself by working out what was going on for me and creating this compelling future for myself, because it is when we get stuck, we're trying to always find that will stop us from, having to face identity and create, empower ourselves, really. Sorry, I got confused there because I hope that didn't cut off because I had an alarm come up. But yeah, so ultimately, that was my experience. It's why I really love talking into situational depression, because I was given drugs when I didn't need them. And in fact, all those drugs was going to serve to keep me mediocre, and not take any control over my life. I feel like I want to feel everything, and I want to empower myself to move through everything. And you can't do that when you take drugs and you fall into the mindset of, that you're depressed and you're victimized, and if they could only change, or if this situation didn't happen. You've got to take responsibility, and that is your only path of empowerment, is to take responsibility for where you are at, and don't blame yourself or others. Move forward towards a compelling future. All right, I'm going off a bit. So Anthony, nice to have you, and Frank, Simon from Mexico, I'm so grateful that you're finding value in these messages. Thank you so much for letting me know. And Abdi and Amine, awesome to have you. And Ted, I'm having a tough time letting a girlfriend go. We have had a lovely relationship. She has relocated to another city. She's not sure what she wants. It confuses me. Wow, awesome, Ted. And firstly, I just want to honor you for your openness and your vulnerability. I find vulnerability truly courageous. And I love that you're sharing with us all here. And what I would say to you, I really want to honor the journey that you're on currently. What I want to say to you is, I want to say that, particularly for you masculine men out there, masculine, I'm going to make an assumption that you're a masculine man, Ted, and I'd probably want to have a conversation with you. So if that interests you, definitely after this, book in a power session with me. That's all free, but I can connect with you and determine whether this is correct. But for the purposes of what I'm going to explain, particularly for you masculine men out there, when we're talking into relationship, masculinity and your strength comes from knowing what you want and going after it. And where I find so many of you beautiful men out there who all have the best intentions with your relationships, you're not being leaders, and you're kind of being wishy-washy about what your feelings are and what you want moving forward. And there is nothing more attractive to a feminine woman than a masculine man who knows what he wants and knows what is best for the relationship and for the two of you, and is willing to do whatever it takes to move in that direction. So women, feminine women, we're always testing to see if you're going to step into that masculine strength. And when we're in that testing stage, because we're not feeling too certain, we're confused, and we're kind of leaving the option open for you to step forth and show us your masculine strength and leadership. And it sounds like that could be, I'm making some big assumptions here, Ted, but that could be where you're currently at. Your partner, may very well be trying to determine whether you are strong enough of a leader to want to spend her life with. So I would encourage you to definitely jump on a call with me, and we can have a conversation around masculine, feminine, and see which side of the boat you more so swing towards, and that will ultimately determine what the dynamic is going on in that relationship and how to move forward from that empowered state. But yes, confusion never serves. You've got to get strong and, courageous enough to own what you want. And some of us get so scared when it comes to relationships because we're confused about how the other person feels, and we don't want to be left up there in the lurch, sharing our feelings. But ultimately, that's what we all crave. We all crave somebody to know that they want us, that they love us, that they see a future with us, and we want that leader, particularly if we are that feminine part of the relationship. So I love that you're sharing here, Ted. Let me know if that was valuable, or if there's anything more I can clear up for you there, or any more comments there. I did make some big assumptions, so let me know, Ted. I love that you're here. And Soy Cairo, I'm interested in your assertion. I want to keep seeing your video sessions from now on. Awesome. I'm so grateful to have you here, and I'm grateful that you're finding some value here, and I look forward to continuing to see you join me. Thank you so much. And Lizzie, nice to have you. And Jack and Andrew, Gabrielle, you're so welcome. And I love that. And David, very early morning message. Or thank you so much. Have a brilliant day as well, David. And Saddam, yes, thanks. Continue with your sessions. Awesome, Saddam. I'm grateful that my comments were of value to you. Carolina, nice to have you. And Nancy and Craig, awesome to have you guys here. So guys, that really is my message. Drop any last questions, comments, experiences below if you want me to touch on them for you right now. But really, that's my message. I want you guys to understand the difference between taking personal responsibility and blame. Blame is very disempowering, whether you're blaming yourself or another or a circumstance or situation. And the only pathway towards empowerment is to take full responsibility for where your life's at, no matter which area we're talking about, and create a compelling future for yourself to move forward from that is truly resonating with the truth of who you are and what you value and find most meaningful. So awesome, Ted. I'm grateful that that was valuable to you and that resonated. Guys, that's it from me today. I've loved having you here as always. Definitely, if you have any questions or comments moving forward, or any ideas of topics you'd love for me to talk into, that's what I'm here to do. I want to be making sure that I'm adding as much value to you guys as possible. So I'm relying on you to give me some feedback and let me know. And just as a side note, I'm so truly grateful to each and every one of you out there who has joined my business page, my Vanessa Jane Patrick Live, Love, Give page, where I'm putting tons of free content on there for you guys and building that up. I've got over 2,000 likes in the last 2 months. So I'm really, really grateful for you guys. And particularly, my heart goes out to all of you who have left me these really kind reviews. You know, you guys have blown me away. It's so unexpected and so surprising, and it's truly a gift. That is the greatest gift that you guys can give to me right now, whilst I'm trying to reach more and more people and add maximum value, is to leave me a review on my business page. So I thank you so much. And if you do leave me a review, I will make sure that I definitely get in contact with you, and I'd love to meet you. So I would definitely want to jump on a call with you as well, and see how I can add more value to your life and help you break through any challenge that you're currently experiencing so that you can access your limitless potential. So guys, that is it. And thank you so much. So Cairo and Gabrielle, I'm grateful that this was valuable to you. I'm sending you all of my love, light, blessings, gratitude, energy, enthusiasm. As I say, everything brilliant to wherever you are in the world right now. I'm so grateful for each and every one of you, and much, much love to you. Have an incredible day or night wherever you are, and I will see you guys tomorrow.